I went with the then regional director to make a visit, site visit, met Tulio, and Tulio was just our driver for the trip, a week-long exploration. But a really delightful young man. We built a friendship, and 2 years later the regional director called me and asked me if I would be willing to serve as a mentor for Tulio. He was still interested in the ministry and then had even more interested, and I was more than willing to engage him. I began mentoring Tulio formally. We have no Lutheran seminary in Honduras. We went to a Nicaraguan church and they embraced Tulio with open arms. Tulio became a seminary student in Nicaragua, and it's a marvelous story of God's grace at work in his life, his family's life, and has been a tremendous source of encouragement for his family that God has called him to this, but also for me a delight to watch a young man grow so much, grow in faith, grow in confidence, trust in the Lord.
Safe Harbour is an international ministry, so it attracts expats from all over the world, and it has its challenges and blessings, and we're still on a learning curve, but I think we're learning a lot about how to minister to this very diverse group of people.
And we have the opportunity to connect to them, to make acquaintance with them, invite them to worship with us. Sort of the change in the makeup of the worshiping community is pretty substantial. Maybe 50–60% different today than we were 4 years ago when we started out.
Part of that's due to the fact that that you have to live on the island with work visas, but then they have to leave the island because of the term limits and also the work visa limits. So that when they leave the island, then they're prepared to go back to their home country or wherever the next step is, and be prepared to connect with the church and become active and well prepared to serve that church wherever they go.
He was very honest with me and admitted that he really, I don't ever recall him saying he did not believe, nor that he had rejected God, but he didn't have any certainty and didn't really even understand, well, what does it mean to believe in God and to have faith and to live a life of faith. And as we continued talking about plans for his wedding day, he called me then after the second visit, and he said, Pastor Ed, he said, I don't want to go to the altar with my wife, without being baptized. Would you baptize me? And I had the opportunity to baptize him, and spontaneously after I said the closing prayer for the baptism, the congregation applauded. The place just broke up, and people with tears, and it was an extraordinary experience.
About a year ago, we opened a ministry center in what I would call the public square. We just kind of visited different people and always offering our services if anybody ever needed to talk or wanted a place to come, that we would be happy to receive them and to try to help in any way that we could. One day we were working in the office and a young woman comes in, and she was totally devastated, and she had 2 small children who had been taken away from her that morning by a social worker. So immediately called one of our Stephen ministers, connected the 2 of them together, and the Stephen minister was able to walk her through some very difficult times. Result being that she's very grateful. She has her children with her again. And now she's very open to, the seed's been planted, and very open to hearing words of peace from God.
We know that our time is going to have certain limits and boundaries on it, but we'll take full advantage of that time to help people grow spiritually, for us to grow spiritually, and to look forward to the future and contemplate the real nature of a sustainable model for ministry, let's say for the long term.
To me, it's a global expansion of the ministry that starts on Cayman, which I think is pretty neat.